let's begin the class. Today we are going to continue talking about economics. Same as usual. Okay, now I start already with 10.8. We start this topic. The topic is demand. In economics, we use two very important terms, that is demand and supply. Demanda y oferta. Oferta y demanda. I'm pretty sure you have heard these terms, demand and supply, or demanda y oferta. And then we're gonna discuss it during this trimester. We're gonna discuss these terms. Okay, let's move on. Now here is, as I said, the name of the chapter is what is the economic, what is demand, sorry, what is demand? And the vocabulary, these are the words for that vocabulary, you need to look it up. Demand law of demand, demand schedule, market demand schedule, demand curve, and market demand curve. Now these are the objectives of this chapter. Define demand and outline what the law of demand says, explain how to interpret and create demand schedules, and describe the role of market. Describe the role of market research in this process. And the last one, explain how to interpret and create demand curve. Okay, let's begin now. Law of demand. Now, the forces of supply and demand, these are forces. La demanda y la oferta son fuerzas. Okay, the force of supply and demand establish the price, establecen el precio that best serves both producers and consumers. Producers and consumers. Demand is the desire. The puertas, puertas arrive, puertas. Demand is the desire to have some goods or service and the ability to pay for it. Demand defines what is demand. Demand is the different quantity of goods that consumers are willing and able to buy at different prices. For example, Bill Gates is able because he's a millionaire, he's able to purchase a Ferrari. I am not able to buy a Ferrari, it's too expensive. Okay. Now, but remember, you need to have two characteristics for this in order to conclude a demand. You need to be willing and you need to be able to buy something. Now it says Bill Gates is able to buy Ferrari, but if he isn't willing, he has no demand for one. So you need to have a willing and be able to. El deseo y tener la capacidad. Por ejemplo, a mí me gustaría tener un Lexus, pero si yo no tengo la capacidad de mantener un Lexus, eso va a ser un dolor de cabeza para mí. Así que it's the same thing in your family. Yeah, you're living in a house where your parents, they can afford. Now, if you want to have a lot of luxury things, then you need to work a lot and try to get a good job in order to satisfy your demands, okay? Okay, let's move on. Come on. Now, there's an example over here. You may want the last album by several of your favorite bands, as an example, and at a price of between 20 and 12 bucks each. You can afford them. Since you have both the desire for them and the ability to pay for them, you do have demand for that albums. And that is a demand. Price is one of the major factors that influence demand. Now, the law of demand states that when the price of a good or service falls, cuando baja el precio, the consumer buy more of it. Usually, you buy more of it. Es como usted va a una tienda. Si hay una oferta, ustedes aprovechan a comprar varios a tratar de aprovechar la oferta y compran varios de lo que está en oferta. Ya, a pesar de que no lo querían, pero lo deseaban y lo aprovechan la oferta. Porque el precio bajó. So the consumer buy more of it. As the price as a good or service increase, now it's the opposite also. Now if the price increase, the consumers usually buy less. Usually, or maybe they won't buy any of it. Now, in other words, quantity demanded and price have an inverse or opposite relationship. That is the short version of the law of demand. Now over here, there's a picture. When the price falls, quantity demand goes up. When the price increase, the quantity demand goes down. Now over here in the book, the work that you have, economic books, there is an example over here. It says Cheryl has been saving to buy the DVD box set of original Star Wars trilogy, and it costs like $34.99. Cherry goes to the Montclair Video Mart. She is disappointed. The Star Wars set is sold out, and a new shipment won't arrive for a week. She decided to buy some other DVDs so that she won't go home empty-handed. But she also decided to save roughly half of her money towards the future purchase of the Star Wars trilogy. As she looks through the movie's DVD, she sees that most of those she wants sell for 15 bucks. How many will she buy at that price? Let's say she decided to buy 3 and keep the rest of the money for the trilogy. I don't know how. But what if each of the DVD she wants costs 5 bucks? Shirley might decide that the price is such a good deal that she can buy 7 of it. As you can see, the law of demand is more than just an economic concept. It's also a description of how consumers behave. Now, another topic that we need to discuss here in this chapter, it says the demand schedule. Demand schedule is the table that shows how much of goods or service an individual consumer is willing and able to purchase at each price in a market. In other words, a demand schedule shows the law of demand in a chart form. Over here there are 2 columns. The first one is the price of apple per kilos, and the other one the quantity that you might or you can buy for this price. As you see, as the price goes down, the quantity raises. As the price raises up, then the demand is less. As you see, the difference between 100, I don't know, pesos, 100 pesos, you would buy 200. And if it costs 50 pesos, then you might buy 700. That is the difference. So that is basically, and in this schedule, they show you the different options. Okay. Now there's another term. It's the market demand schedule. This one is an individual, and this one is the collective, the group in a segment of the market. This one is individual, and this one is the collective of all the demands from the people. It says market demand schedule shows how much of goods or service all consumers, this one was individual. Now these all consumers are willing and able to buy at each price in a market. Example of individual market. This is an example of individual market. Well, it's this one individual market. Now over here, like it says, if the DVD's price would cost 30 bucks, she wouldn't buy any. But like it says over here in the previous example, over here, she would buy, if the price of DVDs would cost 10 bucks, then she would buy 40 DVDs. Okay, as the price goes down, the quantity increases. As the price goes up, then the quantity reduces. That's the law of demand. Easy and simple. Now the market demand schedule. The schedule also shows that the quantity of DVDs that Cheryl is over here, Cheryl demand raises or falls in response to changes in prices. Sometimes, however, an individual demand, this is the individual demand. Individual demand does not give business owner enough information. Take a look at the DVD market demand, the DVD market. Now we're talking about the market demand. Schedule below, notice that it's similar to the individual demand schedule concept, that the quality demand are much larger. It also shows that, like individual demand, market demand depends on the price. Now, this is the chart of the market demand. Now, it says in the letter A, at the top of the price, Rafael, is not me. Consumer will buy 50 DVDs at this price. Now, letter B, at the middle price of 15 bucks, the quantity demand of DVD is 125. And at letter C over here, at the lower price of 5 bucks, the quantity demand rise to 300. So markets behave in the same way as individual consumer. Now, this is the market behave. This is the market behave. This is not the individual. Okay. Now let's stop right here. How Rafael create the market down? We'll discuss this. Let's read it. Let's do it right now. How did Rafael create a market demand schedule? Now, the first, he survey. Now you need some tools like a survey in order to create this table that the market demand. It says he surveyed his customers, asking them how many DVDs they would buy at different prices. Next, he reviewed his sales figures. Va a revisar sus ventas to see how many DVDs he sold at each price. Cuánto vendió en cada uno de sus precios. These techniques such as this for investigating a specific market are called market research. Investigación de mercado. Market research involves the gathering and evaluating of information about customer preferences. So in that way, he created this market demand, and this is an individual demand. That's the different guy. Okay. Now let's stop right here and let's watch a video that summarizes what we just discussed, or we just studied here in this chapter. Okay. The law of demand. Let's watch this one.
When you talk about demand, what comes to mind first is markets. A market is the platform that brings together buyers of different sorts and sellers of different sorts. They are the demanders and the suppliers in any situation that involves a potential exchange of goods and cash. The corner gas station, an e-commerce site, the local music store, a farmer's roadside stand. These are all markets familiar to us all. Now, let's go on to examine what demand is. Demand is a schedule or a curve that shows the quantities of a product that are purchased at various possible prices, other things equal. It shows you the pattern that a consumer follows when he is willing and able to purchase various amounts of a product at each of a series of possible prices during a specified period of time. Let's consider this hypothetical demand schedule for a single consumer purchasing bushels of corn. This table shows how the various prices of corn and the quantity of corn a particular consumer would be willing and able to purchase at each of these prices are related. At $5 per bushel, the consumer is willing and able to buy 10 bushels per week. But at $4, the consumer is willing and able to buy as many as 20 bushels per week, and so forth. Thus, demand is simply a statement of a buyer's intentions with respect to the purchase of a product. Let's represent the relationship between the price of corn and an individual's demand for this corn on a simple graph. Let's measure quantity demanded on the horizontal axis and price on the vertical axis. Let's plot and connect the 5 price quantity data points listed in the table with a smooth curve, labeled D. This curve is what we call a demand curve. Its downward slope reflects an inverse relationship that economists call the law of demand. So, what we understand is that, other things equal, consumers will buy more of a product as its price declines and less of it as its price rises. Having come to this conclusion, we must now ask ourselves another question. Why is there an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded? Actually, the law of demand is consistent with common sense. People do tend to buy more of something when it's priced low rather than when it's priced high. That's why there is always a rush at clearance sales. It's ample evidence of the law of demand. Buying depends on one more thing, and that's utility. It's been noted that in any specific time period, a buyer derives less satisfaction from each successive unit of the product that he consumes. This satisfaction can be termed marginal utility. Because successive units yield less and less marginal utility, he will buy additional units if only the price of those units is progressively reduced. We see, therefore, that consumption is subject to diminishing marginal utility. For example, a decline in the price of chicken will increase the purchasing power of consumer incomes, enabling people to buy more chicken. This is the income effect that price decline has on demand. At a lower price, chicken is relatively more attractive, and consumers tend to substitute it for pork, lamb, beef, and fish. This is the substitution effect that price decline has on demand. Income and substitution effects combine to make consumers able and willing to buy more of a product at a low price than at a high price. It thus becomes clear how price and quantity demanded are inversely related.
Okay, now let's watch the first one. Here it is.
In this section, we'll be understanding about demand and supply, and in this session, the focus is understanding what is demand. What do we mean by demand? Let's say you have desire to buy a product, and that desire, if it is backed by ability to pay and willingness to buy that product, then we say there's a demand for that product. Okay, so demand means there should be desire, it should be backed by ability to pay and willingness to buy. Only then we can say there's a demand. Let's take an example to understand this. Let's say a person below poverty line aspires or wishes to buy a car now. Okay, we can say it's only a desire but not a demand. The reason being, he has no ability to pay. He has no purchasing power to pay for that car or to buy that car. Okay, so here it is only a desire and not a demand. But on the other side, let's say a rich man desires or wants to buy a car, then we can say it's a demand because he has a desire and that is backed by ability to purchase. That is, he'll be able to pay for that car. Reason being, here that desire is backed by purchasing power, right? So this is about demand. And what are the determinants of demand? That also we should understand. The demand mainly depends upon the price of that commodity or product, but there are also other determinants for demand. It can be the price of related products. Okay, so if the related product price increases or decreases, then it is possible the product what you are looking for, its price will also undergo a change. It is also linked with income of consumers. If income level of the consumers goes up, then the demand can also go up for the products. It is linked with the taste and preferences of consumers. Certain product, the demand will undergo changes not because of price, not because of income, but because of the change in taste and preferences. Then again, it also depends on wealth of the consumer. Okay, so there are other determinants like this, and so we can say demand is basically a function of, I've written something like equation PXPSYTW, where DX stands for demand for goods X, PX is the price of that goods, PS is the price of related goods, Y is income, T refers to taste and preferences of the consumers, and Y refers to wealth of the consumer. Okay, so this is the brief background about demand. In next session, we'll understand what is law of demand.
Very good. Okay, guys, we'll stop right here and then we'll continue on Friday in order to conclude this chapter about demand. What is demand? Any question, guys? Any question? No question? Okay. Now, remember you need to keep complete the vocabulary and the assessment questions that I signed it in the weekly planning in your notebook. Okay, guys? See you on Friday. Bye-bye. See ya.